Coming in Sayer here. Brock Van Hansen, Locadia. And there's a goal for...
On an 18-0 run here, what more do you need from your guys to slow this down and get into their game?
They would need some help from the Lord.
Guys, I'm telling y'all, y'all Eagles haters are going to be needing the Lord. I'm telling y'all. Anyways, though, guys, it's Eagles time. We know how good they are, so let's just not ignore it and get into it. And with that, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Fun NFL. Please like and subscribe. Hope y'all are ready for the Philadelphia Eagles 2026 roster grades. One of the victims of the New York Knicks, who, of course, won our NBA title a little over a month ago. I don't give a shit about the NBA. But all y'all need to know is, yep, it's on to the Eagles now. They obviously made a pretty big trade at the start of last month. And that definitely will reflect in this team's roster. Still, though, they're probably projecting as one of the best rosters in the league. So keep that in mind as we go through this. But again, if you don't watch past roster series, I do recommend going watching the Jacksonville Jaguars second timestamp to know what's going on with this. But without further ado, if you're an Eagles fan, you know why we're here. Let's get into the roster. Starting out, as we have always with the rest of this series, with the quarterback position. And for the Eagles, they have a bunch of very interesting guys in here. I think there'll be a very competitive battle for that third quarterback spot. Jesus. We'll start with Cole Payton. Cole Payton was my number 4th quarterback in the draft. He's a very unique prospect because he's not particularly stand out in really anything. He's definitely a mobile threat, which again, you look at this Eagles offense, the past the years that they have been really good, really looking at 2022. Again, obviously 2024 they were elite too, but that year specifically with Jalen Hurts, that was his best year of his career so far. It was. He was obviously 2021 was his best rushing year, but again, that sort of system is what they've been at the best. So again, you look at Cole Payton. While he's not a guy you look at as an elite rushing threat quarterback, he definitely has that as a huge element of his game. Throwing the ball very good on time, has really good rhythm. It's just the fact that his arm count isn't really quite there. Still has a decent enough arm. I just don't think it's truly there. But in 6'3", 233, he's got good size. It's just, is he really an NFL quarterback? We'll have to wait and see on that. Again, he played at North Dakota State. Not going to lie, he probably played 2 actual good players, honestly, throughout his entire career. So it's going to be interesting what we see with Cole Payton. But he definitely has deserved the respect to at least get a shot at not making this roster. Again, he'll be in training camp, battling that with Tanner McKee, who is right here. Tanner McKee's a guy that really hasn't done, again, a whole lot yet. Again, I think, what was it? He started that 2024 game, or at least got into that game against the Giants in Week 18. He didn't play particularly bad, if I don't remember from that game. Yeah, 2 touchdowns. Yeah, again, they won 20-13. He honestly was pretty good. But the last year in that Week 18 game against the Commanders, they weren't really very fond of how he played. In my opinion, he didn't take pressure well, which is something you look at him coming out of Stanford. Him not being a mobile guy, you needed that to be a part of his game, and it really hasn't been that so far. Obviously, he's a decent enough arm, but yeah, Tanner McKee, guys, for a pure, and I mean a pure pocket passer, there's questions if he's the back of the future. That's why they brought in Andy Dalton in a trade from the Panthers. Andy Dalton last year was absolutely abysmal, and really not. They obviously didn't play very well in the one start he had, in which, again, no one really remembers this, but the Bills blew up the Panthers in that Week 8 game. 2024, again, he started out high against the Raiders, and then he kind of sucked before then. And then, again, you look at that disaster 2023 season, he looked like, again, that was the only game the entire season that Panthers offense even looked presentable. So, kind of the past years has been a little bit of a precipitous drop in play, but again, he's only started, what is it now? What are we going to say? What did he start, like 5 games? 4 or 5 games? Andy Dalton. Let's see how many games he started in 2024. Yeah, 5, 1, and 1. So he's only started 7 games in the past. What is it? 3 seasons. Obviously, 2022 he was the full-time starter for that Saints team after James Winston debacle to start the season. But yeah, Andy Dalton, he's gonna be a solid backup for you. Again, on this team, I really don't know. Again, he's just tearing what he's now, 38. Yeah, Andy Dalton's freaking guys. He'll be 39 in the season. Obviously, he's not a strong down, mobile quarterback at all. So just keep that in mind. Again, now on to the main attraction, Jalen Hurts. Everything I said about him really still applies to last season. I still think, at least in terms of his over-the-middle presence passing, it was honestly better than that 2024 season. But again, the biggest thing with Jalen Hurts is the fact that he still hasn't been able to consistently be able to make reads downfield, and just his accuracy as a whole has been flawed his entire career. Yeah, good career high 25 touchdowns passing. Again, good for him. He started almost every game. Also, career low in rushing, keep that in mind, but also that was kind of like it was a weird sort of thing. He still scored 8 rushing touchdowns. Still a threat there. But at least for me, guys, I just don't think Jalen Hurts, again, at least in the offense, who was in last year with Kevin Patullo, really didn't show me anything that I was really surprised by. Again, in my opinion, he's a bottom. I'd honestly say he's not even a top 20 passer in the NFL right now. Say all you want about that, but I think he proved me at least somewhat right last year. That was a big statement I made going into last year, and again, it somewhat worked out. But anyways, actually, Jalen Hurts, is he a good quarterback? Obviously he is, but he still got that I have questions about. Still, I'm going to give him a B. That's what he deserves. I think the fact that, again, I can't give him anything higher than that just because the fact that, again, I think I have him around a B last year. Again, passing-wise, he's not here. He's probably around like a C or a C-. But, again, he does lead this team really well. He wins games. There's something to that. Again, it's just a question of, can he get back to the Super Bowl like he's kind of had this team's had like the pattern of doing. I honestly, I hope that's not the case, but hopefully they are, again, successful if we're really looking at it, again, in terms of an Eagles perspective. But I'll give it a B. The backcourt situation is definitely going to be interesting development through the preseason. Again, in Dalton's favor to be the actual backup. But 40 points a quarterback, again, I think that is a pretty fair assessment there. Again, I don't think, it'll be interesting to see how Jalen Hurts has played because he has not, again, had a successful passing season without A.J. Brown yet. Again, 2020, 21 looking those 2 years. But with that said, let's get into their skill positions, which, again, is absolutely loaded still, even though they lost A.J. Brown. And as we always do, we do start at running back. Again, for these skill positions, we'll go through running back, wide receiver, and tight end. This wide receiver room is definitely interesting, so I'll be wanting to talk about that. But again, we'll start out with running back, and this is definitely a group that is in a very good spot. Saquon, again, last year, while he he had a down year compared to that all-time 2024 season. Again, still as a receiver, he was pretty weaponized. Again, really the biggest difference was the explosive plays weren't as much there. And the consistency was more in line with that 2023 season, the year before he went to Philly. And also the fact that Kevin Patullo really didn't give him the right options. Still, though, I don't think, I think there's definitely a little bit more untapped for Saquon Barkley. Again, there's no way he gets back to that 2024 form. But again, there's no reason he can't go over 1,500 yards again. While he's getting up there at now 29 years old, and he's had severe injury issues in the past. You look at Saquon right here. I still think he's a guy that is an elite running back, a top 5 guy. But again, I really think the misconception of Saquon and not throughout his career is the fact that he is this guy that breaks a crap ton of tackles that just makes something out of nothing. Well, yes, he makes something out of nothing. That's a very, again, real thing he does. He's not a guy that's really ever been even an above average, he's an above average guy. He's never a guy, again, who's transcended an offense because of the fact that he breaks tackles. He's a guy that can create his own holes, make things happen, blow up big plays. He's an explosive demon, obviously. But he's not a guy you look at to save your offense through breaking tackles. And the fact that the Eagles' offensive line really didn't get the penetration, or I wouldn't say that right. It wasn't as much of a certainty on every single run as it was in 2024. That was part of the reason Saquon struggled, on top of the fact the defense stacked the box a lot because Jalen Hurts could not throw the ball and beat them with his arm. So keep that in mind there. But Saquon's still one of the best backs in the league. Tank Bigsby as a backup is very interesting. Last year, again, after getting traded from the Jaguars, which was a very bizarre start to that season, he kind of just didn't really get used right. I still think Tank Bigsby is a guy that can just absolutely, again, kind of be I'm not going to say complete difference to Saquon, but they're very similar backs. But he's a guy I think can really still have that more power element to his game, on top of kind of being this guy you put out there to kind of be a spark. Again, obviously Saquon can spark out any play, but again, if Saquon's kind of having a tough game, Tank can go out there and do his thing. Again, still, I think it really wasn't put to full fruition last year because, again, the fact that Kevin Patullo was out there. Now having, oh my God, how did I forget? Sean Mannion, there we go. Now having Sean Mannion out there, and you look at that kind of them implementing at least somewhat of a West Coast offense, putting, again, Jalen under center again. You've heard that from every single casual analyst. I don't want to say it, but that would definitely add an element where Tank Bigsby could definitely be a little bit more of a threat. The new Will Shipley, who kind of disappeared last year. Again, everyone remembers him from that 2024 NFC Championship garbage time. But yeah, he's just a guy at this point in his career who's not really athletically there to kind of be anything more than, I guess, a path-fitting third guy down back, I guess, in a little bit. And I would not be surprised if Dameon Pierce gets his way over Will Shipley by it because he's just a better player. But yeah, Dameon Pierce is cooked, bro. After that rookie season, I'm like, well, it's been a rough time here. I mean, you look at last year, to even play at all with that, yeah, I don't even know what the hell happened last year. That was a disaster. He was better in 2024, but they just didn't play him. So, yeah, holy fall off, Dameon, bro. What are we doing? Running back still giving me an A+, though. Again, I think the depth is definitely there. It's just the fact that, again, is Saquon going to be able to be kind of bounce back in some ways? Again, I'm still not concerned at all about him, though, because, like, he's still going to be one of the best backs in the league. Now we go wide receiver. This is good. Again, had that huge move with, you know his name. Freaking, you know the dude. A.J. Brown. But still, receiver. There's still a group that is among one of the better receiving corps in the league. Again, it's a lot of pressure on Mekhi Lemon. Don't get me wrong. And when you again have arguably the best receiver doing football and lose one of those dudes, it's kind of hard to think that Mekhi Lemon is just going to go in there and do it. Especially with them not really having a true X receiver anymore. Well, I will say that AJ Brown never had like really a dominant release like at all. He still was a guy that was able to use just a straight pure strength and kind of, I don't even say like quickness off the line, but at least somewhat of that to kind of be that guy who could kind of survive in that role. Devontae Smith, I not even survive, just thrive in that role. Devontae Smith is not the guy you want to really put there. Still had a 1,000-yard season last year, but again, everyone's talking about is he their number one dude? This is going to be the year he'll show it. I still think Devontae Smith really hasn't completely gotten back to that 2022 form in terms of just the big play explosiveness ability. Still, though, I think this year the biggest thing that we'll see with him is that separation rate that has been the big calling card for him really going to show up. And is he going to be a guy, especially in the red zone, that can consistently be your guy? Obviously, if Dallas Goedert is the go-to guy in the red zone, but is Devontae Smith that true number one receiver? We don't know. He hasn't really been asked to do that since his rookie season. He's obviously one of the better receivers in football, one of the more talented guys there, like among the best spotter control we've ever seen. But it's just, again, is he that dude? Can he play the X? Well, he can't, but it's just it's kind of a question mark to have, even though he's obviously an elite receiver. Then you have a Kyle Lemon, again, the first-round pick out of USC. I'd be shocked if they don't put him in the slot. This is where he does thrive. He is a multifaceted route technician who can give you basically anything you want there. I do think that if he can slide out into the Z, become at least somewhat of a vertical threat and kind of being a more presentable guy over the middle of the Jalen, will at least give them some sort of diversity there, and I think that's something that Sean Mannion will consistently try to work into their offense. But at the moment, Kyle Lemon is going to be a guy that's going to be a very productive rookie slot receiver who kind of grow into more of a bigger role as the season goes on. Or not. It's okay if he doesn't. Then you have Dontayvion Wicks, who's kind of this flash in the pan sort of guy. For the Packers last year, he really wasn't that great just because it was kind of on the fact that he wasn't able to kind of, you talk about his ability to kind of make things happen at the top of the road the first 2 years of his career, and especially being able to kind of, again, cross the face of these cornerbacks that are long. That was not something he did really consistently at all last year, at least on tape. And until that really comes back, I can't really trust him too much on top of the fact that he's not a very big yak threat. So, while he is definitely a guy I could definitely see being a third receiver, he hasn't really been that consistency we've seen at again times through his first 2 years. But again, last year, kind of a tougher season, but he's still a guy you look at to be a, again, average third receiver, I'd say, but still a good option. Hollywood Brown, I don't think we're ever going to see him get back to that, again, like 2021 form or even, like, I guess 2022 form. Again, 2023 was kind of an up and down year again. Him and Kyler really never got on the same page. Again, he didn't play at all for the Chiefs in 2024, basically. Last year, overall, he was pretty damn good, but he simply put, he just couldn't win in man coverage consistently. I think he was their actually leading receiver at there, or other than, I guess, Worthy and freaking Rice. But still, Hollywood Brown's a guy that's still going to be a downfield threat. That was kind of what he was a lot of last year, but he's still not a guy you look at as a reliable option on down basis. Still, though, you get a decent route tree with him. It'll be interesting to see how they utilize him. He'll definitely be more of a, kind of in a platoon role with Dontayvion Wicks. Then you have Elijah Moore, who last year, again, really didn't crack the starting lineup really at all for the Bills. Kind of sucked. He kind of was a bust. Again, we all know 2023, 2024 with the Browns, he was a pretty reliable guy for them, kind of a yak guy. Really didn't do much downfield at all in 2024. But yeah, Jordan Screw's been a guy who's been very reliable underneath. Again, obviously the injury issue last year, but I just think, again, if he can become a little bit more of a presentable guy in terms of a vertical threat, especially on these kind of contested back shoulder throws, he'll be a lot more useful than I think just being this kind of check down merchant, which, again, he'll definitely get the chance to do anyways. Darius Cooper, who I don't even know what to think about with this dude. He simply can't run a slant route to save his life, at least on the timing with Jalen, so that's got to change. Johnny Wilson, he's tall, like really tall, 6'6", but he can't get open. Like, I don't even know what to tell you. Braden Cobb's returning. Quez Watkins is back. He obviously had some pretty big games with Jalen, 21 and 22. And they have Samari Torrey, who, has had his moments with the Packers in the past. For me, this receiving core is going to be an A-. That might be a little bit of an overrating. I can fully understand that. They have legitimately 5 guys that have established themselves as reliable targets in the league. Again, Hollywood Brown, while it was like 5 years ago, has been a number 1 receiver in the past. Legit guy, maybe not totally, but still a guy that has been very good in the past. Dontayvion Wicks is still his third guy. But Kyle Lemon, as I said, has a floor of being a productive slot receiver. Is that a true number 2 guy? No, but a lot of teams are going to, again, especially if you do not account for him in the right spots, there are going to be linebackers that are going to just get completely carved up by him every single game. He has that impact, and even then, there's a ceiling this year where he is legitimately going to go for like 1,200 yards and like 10 touchdowns and is an absolute freaking pest. For that reason, I got to think the ceiling is at an A-, and again, the fact they still have Devontae Smith, again, Are they as good as they were with A.J. Brown? No, obviously not. But still, it's a group that, again, especially with A.J. Brown struggling a little bit of times last year, I think will definitely be in a little bit of a better spot. So A-, so that's a little bit of a, I think, an upcharge of a grade. I think it's still a fair assessment there. Now we move to tight end. What they got going on here is very interesting. Obviously, Dallas Goedert's now 30, if not 31. Last year, he had 11 touchdowns, which was a career high. That's not sustainable by any means. He'll still be a guy in the red zone they really want to go to a lot because of the fact that he is more of a powerful guy after the catch, which is a very hard thing to find consistently at tight end outside of a guy like Trey McBride. Last year, though, still was a very good receiving guy. Again, as long as they get him in the short game consistently, and I don't know, maybe he can catch a vertical route here and there, just kind of being able to get over the top of a linebacker, those sort of things are going to be very valuable on top of the fact that he's obviously been a very, very good run blocker for a long time. Eli Stowers is a guy that definitely will be a difference maker and an X factor. This was probably the best pick I think they made in the entire draft. It's just the fact that you're getting a guy here at tight end that, wow, is he very raw blocker? Is he a guy that's ever going to be a good blocker? No, but it's a downfield threat. Absolutely. You could have him running vertical routes here and there again, especially with the play action under center. Those sort of things are just going to be parts of your offense that are going to be very, very hard for defenses to plan for. And Eli Stowers, again, he's the X factor in this offense this year. Grant Calcaterra, he's a very reliable third tight end. And even Johnny Mutt, he can block. Will he make the roster? Probably not because he can't catch a lick, but still a very solid blocker if things get ugly. Again, in terms of the injuries. For tight end, though, I really like where this group's at. I'm going to give them a B+. That might seem a little bit overzealous because of the fact that Dallas Goedert, is he really better than like a good tight end? He's kind of, again, it's hard to say, but production-wise, he was definitely there last year. Eli Stowers is going to be huge for them, even though he's not really going to be much of a use in terms of a lot of their alignments. Still, though, huge personnel boost there. And again, great Calcaterra, guys. He's a good player. So for that reason, again, I'm going to say a B+. Well, again, it's a little bit of an overrate. I think it is fair to say 18 points tight end. Now let's get into this offensive line, and then the overall offensive grade will take care of itself. Now let's look at this Eagles offensive line, who, of course, lost their rugby-oriented offensive line coach this offseason, which is a huge hit to what they're going to want to do. Still, though, this is a group that has had – it's basically the same group we've had for, like, the past 3 years, ever since Jason Kelce retired. But you look at this group overall, it's a very, very fun offensive line, of course. The thing is it really – again, are we going to see that 2024 line? Because last year, it really wasn't the case. Lane Johnson, as you all know, had a bunch of injury issues. Fair assessment. Big time injury issues to end the season. Landon Dickerson, really just in pass protection, wasn't as good. Still a really good run blocker. Jordan Mailata had his worst year since he came in the NFL. Still very, very good, though. Cam Jorgens, honestly, the one guy that I think has been consistent here. And then Tyler Sheen, he obviously had a rough year. But again, this offensive line overall, well, it definitely took a step back last year. They're still one of the best. They're arguably the best in football. Again, Jordan Mailata is one of the best tackles in football. He's got one of the rarest builds you ever see. 6'8", 365, moves like a freaking tight end. It is insane. Jordan Mailata is one of the most athletically gifted offensive line we've seen in a very long time. His length is second to none. His first punch is second to none at this position, other than, I guess, a guy like Trent Williams. He's one of the best dudes in football. We all know that. Markel Bell, even though the technique isn't that great. This is a interesting pick, I'll say. He's not a guy that I really think will be anything more than, I guess, a zone blocker who could develop into a guy that is consistently ahead of schedule on blocks. Hard thing to really develop in the first place, but he definitely has that potential. Again, he's only 21. The thing about him is he'll never be an effective enough run blocker to really consistently, again, say that he'll be able to set the edge for you. But where this offense is evolving, if anything was to happen, he's got to want to see on the field. Obviously, Atrocious technique right now as a pass blocker. He's going to be a finesse-oriented guy. We know that. His anchoring ability is pretty good, though, in the first place. So we'll see how that kind of develops there. But again, if he can really, again, settle that down and if he's able to develop some of his techniques better, there's really no reason to get it. What is known? Lane Johnson, 36, that he could take over that spot and be a very good player. All right. Landon Dickerson, already talked about. Kind of a down season last year. Still probably their best overall interior offensive lineman. He's going to be a big threat for them. We don't really need to say much there. We know who he is. Mike Jordan. Okay. I guess he's been around the league. He's a bet guy. Drew Kendall's horrible. Holland Price is another guy that I just don't think is very proven. Again, he hasn't really played a lot, but this is just a guy. I remember watching it Rutgers with Cal Kamanis, quarterback, where he was always kind of like had like a natural feeling where he didn't really always trust that guy. But yeah, Fred Johnson, he's been around for a while. I'm not gonna lie, guys. He's really never been even okay in the NFL. Still has experience though. Really, the biggest thing with his offensive line, again, like guy Morris, he's a tenacious run defender, can't block to save his life in terms of pass protection. But still, again, he was one of the guys I rated at least decently coming out of the draft. So we look at this O-line. There's a lot of depth in terms of like actual dudes. How many of them are actually provenly like okay? I guess Marco Bell's gonna be interesting. Micah Morris, we'll see what happens. Mike Jordan, I think, is probably gonna get a chance to play. But yeah, I'd be shocked if Micah Morris doesn't make this roster. And the rest of the starters, again, Lane Johnson's probably the best tackle, or at least right tackle we've seen over the past like 12, 13 years. Tyler Sheed, rough season last year. He'll still play though, because again, he's the only guy they have. And obviously Cam Jurgens is a really solid center. From this offensive line's gonna get an A+. I understand the fact that again, it's not really again, it wasn't as good. It just wasn't. On tape last year, they weren't as dominant as they usually were. I will say in terms of the discipline though, I think it was actually a little bit better than what we saw in 2024 times. They need to get back to that if this offense really gonna have the same moxie as they had in the past. But still, it's obviously one of the best, if not the best, offensive lines in football. So 24 points, they're still great. Take me as casual all you want, guys. Again, I voiced my concerns, but again, the talent's just still there. That's 160 points for this offense, though, which is not, again, entirely surprising. And if we did that, 160 points, that's going to put this offense in the A+ tier, which is where they belong, guys. As much as people want to say this offense isn't, like, elite, it is. There's really not one part of this offense that isn't at least above average. I voiced my concerns about, what is his name? Freaking Jalen Hurts, but the rest of this offense, there's virtually no holes. They deserve an A+. That's what they're going to get. Now let's get into this defense. You like that rage bait? Yeah, I did some miscalculations there, guys. It's actually, if you're really that concerned, it was actually 36 points. I don't know why I did 4 times 12 instead of 3 times 12. Anyways, though, it's 148 points. It's an A anyways. And, yeah, Chiefs exception if you want to. But, yeah, they're an A-caliber offense in my opinion. So it's not an A+ if you're really that upset. But still. Now let's get into this defense. Another front seven that, again, unfortunately doesn't have a 4-3. But I'll do a 3-4. But, we'll start with linebackers, we always do, and then we'll get through the rest of this front seven as we start out this defense. But yeah, linebacker for the Eagles is a very it's in a very interesting spot because of the fact that a guy like Zach Bond, who they gave a decent contract to, again, peculiar spot because of the fact that obviously 2024 he was arguably the best defender in football, again on a down basis. On tape, I mean, he just every single play he was all over the place, making insane plays. Last year, definitely a step back in coverage. That's probably the biggest thing that kind of hurt his overall rating, in my opinion. On top of the fact that, again, on tape, it was just a little bit more hesitancy than what we saw in 2024. And they weren't as big free range with him. And then he's not a guy who really looked as a physically overbearing guy. That's why he wasn't a guy that, again, started for 4 years with the Saints. But last year, still in this system, did a very, very good job. Again, still a really good season, but definitely a step back in terms of the actual consistency from Zach. But still, again, he's still a very, very good player. Then you know, Jihad Campbell, I think, has a chance, I don't know, to be a first-team All-Pro, but to be something of that, because in coverage last season, he just, again, simply never got shook by a tight end. Again, there were certain receivers that gave him a little bit of trouble, but in the open field, he was great. He took on blocks so well. Diagnosed run packages so great, too. That was very big consistency in his game. There were definitely some times where he missed a tackle here and there. I'm like, what the hell's happening? But Jihad Campbell, guys, he's on his way to being a great linebacker. Jamal Adams Jr., he didn't really get a chance to play a lot last year, but again, if they can kind of put him in kind of a sub-linebacker role, that'll definitely be interesting to see what he's able to do, especially with his ability to kind of keep gaps. I wouldn't even say sound, just in a better spot than they were when he started the snap. Then Jeremiah Trotter Jr., who again is that the guy at Clemson, had kind of a lesser of a role in terms of has coverages in 2024, which was a good thing. But I think he definitely was a little bit better in terms of covering these flat routes. So we'll see what happens with that. But he's definitely a guy to watch. They also have Chance Campbell, who is he's a dude. But yeah, they have arguably the best depth of linebacker in the NFL in terms of just like what we've seen so far. I really like what they have going on here. I'm gonna give that an A+. Again, I just think that much of Jihad Campbell. Obviously, losing to Nakobe Dean to something. But again, Zach Bond, he's still like an A-tier linebacker, despite probably not playing at elite level last year. Jihad Campbell's well on his way to it. I just have to give them an A+, guys. I really love where this linebacking core is going. You could say restrain yourself, but I don't care. That's what I'm doing. Now moving this D-line, it's obviously a group that has some interesting fellas. Jalen Carter still probably is probably well on his way to being the best interior defensive lineman in football. Well, last year, again, a little bit less in production than 2024. The double team rate was actually diabolical, and he still got like, I don't even know, it was like a 20%. It was ridiculous, guys. Jalen Carter's so good. Again, he's just physically imposing. Again, even if you double team him, he will blow by you because of the fact that he has elite burst on the interior. And the strength is like second to none, guys. We all know how good Jalen Carter is. You know, also Byron Young. This is a guy, while he is he has atrocious, like, really just overall movement on the interior, at least from what you think in terms of what fluid is. He's a guy that just simply always gets in the grill of these tackles, or not tackles, guards, gets the vertical displacement, and then is able to kind of shrug them off. It's a very bizarre process of his, but it works really well. The pressure rate was definitely there, and against the run, he was very good at keeping up his gap. So give it up to Byron Young, guys. He's doing his thing. Take what Graham's had experience in the past too. Jordan Davis, well, was he worth 13th overall pick? No. I don't even know what the hell's going on. Jordan Davis is still a guy you look at as I'd probably say a solid nose tackle. Against the run, does he do his job? Absolutely. Is a pass rusher? Not really. He's not like some guy that actually gives you a ton of pressure, but Jordan Davis is a good defensive tackle nonetheless. You also have Zion Wilson at East Carolina UDFA. He actually was pretty good from I remember last year from the games I watched, but still not a guy that I'm like super overzealous again. And then Moro Jomo, he actually had 6 sacks last year, which I'm pretty surprised by. The pressure rate really wasn't there though, to be honest with you guys, and a lot of his moves were kind of it was really just based off a swipe. And the fact that he still has power in his game is really interesting. A lot of people thought he was getting the candidate to kind of go off, and he kind of did last year. But still, he's still now again his numbers were again consistently sustainable, what I mark as sustainable. So a little bit of concern with that. You also have Ty Robinson, who has done some things, but still is not a guy that I'm too dependable against the run. Though for the D line, I'm going to give it an A. Again, when you have a guy like Jalen Carter, it's kind of hard not to give it an A. I might even get I'll give it an A+. I love what's going on there. Yeah, another A+. That's going to be, what is that? 6, 12, 24 points, I think, for the D line. And then you look at this pass rush. Honestly, guys, I'd be a little bit concerned with what's going on here. Again, obviously, the interior D line is going to give you a really high pressure rate. Do I give it an A+? No, I'll give it an A. That's a little bit overzealous. As good as Jalen Carter is, we'll give it an A. I'll be we'll shame myself a little bit more, though. And I'll give that an A, too. Alright. Now we're on track. But anyways, pass rush. Nolan Smith Jr. is not a guy that I'm really too comfortable in being I guess a really consistent number 2. Last year against the run, he sucked. I'm just not gonna lie. 2024 was kind of an some progress there, but still not very good. Last year, the only thing he was able to do was consistently beat guys to the edge, and it was by, I'm not gonna lie, just him using kind of a hesitation move. And that's just not a very efficient way to get pressure because of the fact again, snap count, the pressure rate, those sort of things, they just don't happen with those sort of kind of consistencies in your game. Still though, love the development of the swim move. His power, again, it's still not there, but at least is showing up more consistently, and he does have a decent inside counter. So that's a good thing with Nolan Smith, but he's not getting pressure consistently enough. Again, he's not a reliable guy. He's got to show it though, because he's still, again, the athleticism is absolutely still there. Then you have Jonathan Grant on the other side, who's coming off the worst year of his career. Again, after just, putting up ridiculous pressure rates from 23 to 24. Last year, again, he just completely fell off a cliff. He wasn't healthy the entire season, but he had absolutely no burst off the line. His go-to move, which is a kind of a forklift, was gone. It didn't show up. And when he tried to use it, he couldn't. His power was shot last year. That's just the best way to put it. I really hope he can get back to at least somewhat of, again, I'd be shocked because the numbers he put up, the 23 and 24, which is absolutely outrageous. If he can be at least somewhat of that elite player, you're looking at a guy that can just completely transcend this defense. Still, though, it's just not going to happen, so I have to keep that in mind, but hopefully he's at least somewhat okay. But last year was a disaster. Then you have Jalen Hunt, who is going to be a huge part of this defense. As a run defender, he's just a problem. Again, while he's kind of in a weird spot at 6'3", 252, again, he's still got you put in coverage to say, yeah, go out there and make some plays. But also, the biggest thing with Jalen is the fact that he does give you, again, just straight up burst off the line with that second step, and also he gives you a diversification of pass moves. You can line up at 3-tech and it'll work out. Very good versatility there, and he's a huge third guy for them. Arnold Ebiketie, he really hasn't put it together yet. Again, he was relied on as a top, was really number 1 guy from 23 and 24. Last year, took a little bit of a step back. Honestly, they got a better year than the other two. But he's still a guy that doesn't really maintain gaps super well. And as a pass rusher, he's just not consistent enough because he doesn't really have a true number 1 move. Then AJ Epineza, who again obviously has been a very reliable guy for the Bills for the past, what is it now, 6 years. But last year kind of did take a dip in terms of pressure rate, so I'm not too confident in him this year. But still, though, should be their 4th guy, at least favored to be. And you also have some other random guys too. Honestly, guys, this pass rush is kind of in a rough spot off the edge just because of the fact that you don't really have a true guy to be, again, super compelled by other than Jalen Hunt. Still, though, I'm going to give this pass rush an A-. Again, there's just a really high, I'll give it a B+. The ceiling's really high. The depth is definitely there. I gotta give it an A-. Guys, again, it's gonna happen. The ceiling's too high for that not to be the case, and again, Jalen Carter's too good to not give it an A-. This is gonna be a very good pass rush this year, like, even regardless of their edge rushers have a bunch of issues. So, if we add that up, what is that? 40 points of pass rush. Now let's look at how this cornerback room and this really just overall secondary plays into this. Okay, guys, entering the secondary here for the Eagles, it is a group that saw a little bit of an overhaul this offseason after some struggles last year. Again, at the end of the day, though, it's still a group that has some pretty damn good players. First off with Rick Wallen, the Super Bowl champ. Last year with the Seahawks, he again had an absolutely outrageous season in terms of some of the antics we saw. Again, the big thing with Rick Wallen is after that rookie season where he had 6 picks, a lot of the questions came in the fact that he gets burned a lot. And he's a very controversial player in what you see on the tape with him in terms of, again, the behavior, the penalties he takes, and also the transcendent talent you see as well. Because this guy is an immensely talented cornerback who has some of the best range in football. In coverage, when he's not getting physically abused or just completely being undisciplined, the guy can completely, he's not going to give this lowest separation rate in the league. It's going to be pretty damn close. He's a very talented cornerback. It's just he's never really been disciplined enough to really see that. Then there's Jonathan Jones, who's a washed-up guy at this point in his career. Last year with the Commanders, he was low-key a serviceable player. He was good at tackling. His discipline was very good against the run. Still, though, he couldn't hang with really these faster guys in coverage. That's kind of why the Patriots moved on from after that, again, long career since 2016, though. Still going to be a solid slot for them, though. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets some good opportunities there. Again, in man coverage, he just doesn't really stick with guys enough now. Quinton Mitchell, probably the best quarterback in the NFC, if I'm not going to lie, guys. He honestly, I think, gave up like 2 catches last year. I'm not even kidding. Quinton Mitchell is absolutely phenomenal. His range is second to none. At this position, we're just talking about the length. On top of the fact that his ball tracking ability is really it's phenomenal. Man, he just doesn't get the ball thrown at him because you legitimately can't fit it on a window and hit to him. It's just not going to happen. His hip fluidity is off the charts as well. He's just that good. Kelly Ringo, he was supposed to be their number 2 last year. It just really never happened because his hips are too stiff. I will say against vertical routes, he carried them a lot better last year. Again, I think the big play rate was still pretty high, but it was definitely better than what we saw the past couple of years. And then you also had Corey Bennett, who was a complete bust with the Raiders last year, but at least he, I guess, somewhat swam with them despite, again, the struggles. Ambry Thomas, he has been an interesting guy to watch in the past, and obviously Cooper DeJean is an absolute phenomenal nickel backer, with Michael Carter also being a serviceable guy as well. Ton of depth at quarterback here. Still questions about if Rick Wong can be a consistent number 2 guy for them, but the talent's definitely there. I don't need to talk about Cooper DeJean guy. He does literally everything for this defense. And he covers obviously he's elite. So I'm gonna give it an A+ quarterback. No, we'll say an A. It's pretty damn close though. This is a gross group. 6, 12, 18. We'll say 22 points a corner. Moving to safety now. It's definitely a questionable group for them just because of the fact that I don't really think either Mike Reception or Andrew McCooper are really proven there. Cooper DeJean, I definitely think will be moving into a role. He'll be playing basically a lot of different hats this year, which while that was the case last year, was more of him being a defined nickelbacker. This year, don't be surprised if he's playing a lot more over the middle of the field, kind of trying to prevent these bigger plays. Marcus Epps, interesting guy. He's now 30 years old. He's played really all over the place, a lot of different teams. Again, 2022 in coverage, he was pretty atrocious, and just in terms of the underlying numbers, but at least on tape, it really didn't seem to address that well. Then he went to the Raiders 2023 started, then he got benched. After getting a bench, he tore his ACL, something like that in 2024. Raiders decided not to bring him back. Went to the Eagles last year, was a backup, and was somewhat okay. Biggest thing with him is he's a very disciplined player. It's just you're not going to really get these big time kind of jumps by him or aggressiveness. Like, you're not kind of put your defense where you're giving up these easy kind of fat yardage, I'll say. Andrew Kuba, last year, honestly, a really fun rookie season. The problem with him was the fact that he never really grew out of the bad habits. If you want to know what the bad habits were before he got injured, was he always tackled more with the lower pad level, which I did not love. And in coverage, especially on these underneath routes, he always jumped those, and that's why you saw some guys, again, in terms of these level concepts, be able to be successful against them. Still, though, Andrew Kuba has definitely all the physical tools you want. It's just the fact that, again, we need to see him put them all together. Safety, though, doesn't look too bad. Again, losing Reed Blankenship is definitely not a great thing. J.D. Gray could be a capable backup. Nicole, Wezinski, who knows? And Andre Sam, don't expect much out of those two. For me, I'll give their safety room a C+. Again, I don't think Marcus Epps is really anything better than an average guy, and I think McCooper has some work to do, but still, he had a pretty fun rookie year regardless. That's going to be, what is that? 18 points of safety, and if we add that up, that's going to be 33, 22, 40, 22, 18. That's going to be 135 points for this defense. That is going to put them in the B+ tier, which is where they belong. Really, the biggest issue for me in this defense is the fact that I don't really know how much of this there's definitely some questions here. That's probably the biggest thing to say. How are these safeties going to go together? Can Andrew McCooper take that step up? Is Rick Golden the number 2 corner? And can these edge rushers really put it together? If those things happen, this is going to be one of the better defenses in football. But the question marks that haven't been answered yet, and that's kind of what keeps them in the B tier instead of the A tier, which, in terms of talent, they definitely can get to. All right, guys, let's move into this this Eagles special teams unit before we reveal the overall roster grade. And for that reason, again, you look at what's going on here. It's basically the same unit as before. Jake Elliott last year was absolutely atrocious. That was kind of a meme for him. He wasn't really good in 2024. They're still sticking with him now at 31 years old. Still is one of the better legs in the league, but I definitely think he's enough to take a step up for me to really be confident with him because, again, it was a bad year. Brandon Mann, average punter. Brendan Coffey and Will Shipley are both solid returners. Rocco Underwood is a good long snapper. For me, the special teams units had their issues, but I'll give them a B. They're in a good spot. We'll probably say 3, 6, 8 points for that. Now we'll go to the depth. Quarterback depth, I'd probably give a B-. That's what I'll say. Running back depth, I'd probably give a B. so we're probably sticking around a B there. Receiver depth, I'd probably give a B+. We'll just say we're sticking on a B so far. Tight end depth, I'd also give a B. No, say B+. So honestly, we're probably up to a B+. O-line depth, I'd give a C, so we're probably down to a B then. D-line depth, I'd probably give a, I don't know, a C+. So I'm going to say we're still sticking on a B. Edge rusher depth, I'd probably give an A. So, yeah, I'll give an A. So we're probably up to a B+ then. Linebacker depth is also an A, so we're probably still studying a B+. Secondary overall, I'd probably say is a B+. So I guess that's where we're going to stick. Overall, the Eagles have a roster that's really filled with depth. There's, again, some positions that are definitely thinner than others, but overall, it's a pretty damn good team in terms of depth. I don't really have any questions there. 12, we'll say 36 points. And if we add that up with the identity of this team, the big thing with this team is Nick Sirianni, the guy who can put this team into win games. Is it the roster or is it him? Good question to have. But I think losing or trading A.J. Brown was a move that I think will put them in a good spot. I like the vibes of this Eagles team this year. Again, like I said, the pattern is at least somewhat real. I'm gonna give them a B+ though because I still don't think Nick Sirianni is that great of a coach. Still though, hopefully they win some games this year. That's 45 points overall. And if we add that there, 8, 36, 45, 135, we had 148 for the offense. That's going to put this team at 372 points for the roster grade, and that will put them firmly in the A tier, which is where they belong. This is one of the best rosters in football, as y'all know. I'd argue it's more well-rounded than last year. It's just a question of, like I said, with the defensive questions, can Sean Mannion implement the right offense? Is Nick Sirianni the right coach? I honestly don't think he is, but we're going to say a B+ because I like the vibes of the team this year. Because that's kind of what that is. Anyways, though, 372 points for this Eagles roster. Hopefully the Eagles fans don't crucify me in the comments. That's all I have for y'all. And yeah, here's this next team.
Back to the 23. Wow. I don't know how Waddle got away from that whiplash. And now he's coming the other way. Jalen Waddle across midfield. He's got a convoy. Waddle, he's gone. Touchdown. The top punt returner.